What tires are best for your car? The truth is, it's very hard to tell. You can't tell by looking at them how they're going to perform, and it's a tough item to take for a test drive. That's why at Consumer Reports, we can offer some help.
At Consumer Reports, we put tires through a series of tests to evaluate safety, performance, and how smooth a ride they give you. There's no perfect tire. They all perform differently, and all have pluses and minuses. All-season tires are best for year-round traction. They have long tread wear and they give you a comfortable ride, but they lack precise handling and cornering grip. Performance all-season tires provide better handling and better cornering grip, but they often have shorter tread life. Ultra-high performance tires give you great grip and handling, but they have shorter tread life and a less comfortable ride. Each type is assigned what's called a speed rating.
When you're replacing tires, we recommend that you stick with the size and speed rating that originally came on your car. If you have those tires, the easiest way is to look at the tire's sidewall. But if you're unsure, most newer cars include a sticker or placard inside the driver's door jamb. In most cases, it includes the speed rating. It always includes the size. And if you have an older car, you may also find it on the fuel filler door, in the glove box, or in the owner's manual. We recognize that some people would like to upgrade or go to a higher speed rating. Recognize that there may be some trade-offs in performance when you do that, and you should never downgrade or go to a lower speed rating. Ultimately, if you stick with what originally came on the car, you can't go wrong. One of the first things you want to think about is a set of tires that brakes and handles well, because the truth is, a good set of tires can be the difference between a close call and an accident.
Here's how a good tire performs in our avoidance maneuver test. This is what you don't want.
That one didn't look as good. You seem to be going a lot slower and you're a lot sloppier.
It was a difficult set to drive. It was very hard to negotiate this car through the course. I was going much slower. I used a lot more steering. It was slower responding. I had lower grip.
In our dry braking test, we drive 60 miles per hour, then hit the brakes and measure where each set of tires stops.
As you can see, with this set, you're a good car length or more past where a better performing set stopped. That could be the difference between hitting the car in front of you or not. The truth is, no matter where you live, it's going to rain at some point, which is why we also test in wet conditions. And in the wet, you can expect grip will be less and braking distances will be longer. And just because you have a tire that performs well in dry conditions doesn't mean it's going to be as good in the wet.
In the wet braking test, we go a bit slower, 40 miles an hour, and then brake and measure the stopping distance.
Again, even from a slower speed, you can see the difference between a good and a bad tire can be as much as a car length.
Consumer Reports tests also show some tires are much more likely to hydroplane. That's when water wedges between the tire and the road and you lose grip. We do our hydroplane test on a course covered with water 10 millimeters deep. The goal is to follow the curve, but as we come through at increasing speeds, eventually the tires hydroplane and the car goes straight. The cornering grip test assesses a tire's ability to hold the car around a tight curve. If your tire has less grip, you'll have to slow down or risk spinning out or losing control.
Once you've narrowed your choices based on our ratings in the key performance areas such as braking, handling, and hydroplaning, then look to our ratings in other areas that are specific to your driving needs.
For instance, we test how well tires perform in the snow. The tires you get can mean the difference between getting going and getting stuck. And at an ice rink, we test how well tires brake on ice. Again, we find big differences. For drivers in extreme winter conditions, we recommend winter tires for maximum traction in the snow and ice, but be sure to remove them in warmer seasons. We also rate each tire for ride comfort and noise. One other thing to consider is a tire's tread life. Our tests show some tires wear a lot faster than others.
These two tires, for example, have the same amount of mileage on them, about 16,000 miles, but you can see visibly that this tire has much more tread depth left than this one.
Yeah, and that affects the performance of the tire. With less tread, your tires will have less grip in wet conditions and worse traction in the snow.
You can measure tread depth as it wears with the inexpensive tire tread depth gauge. A couple bucks at your hardware store, it'll tell you how many millimeters or 30 seconds of tread depth are left.
And if you don't have a nifty tread depth gauge, you can use 2 coins. One is a quarter, the other is a penny.
Place the quarter in the groove upside down. If you see the top of George's head, it's time to start thinking about replacing your tires. With a penny, if you see Lincoln's head, the tire is worn out and needs to be replaced soon.
What you may not know is that tires can actually save you money at the fuel pump. Rolling resistance is a measure of how much force it actually takes to keep a tire rolling down the road, and it relates to fuel economy. And we saw in our tests around 3 miles per gallon difference on the highway between models that had the worst rolling resistance versus those that had the best. But we've also seen in our tests that sometimes rolling resistance is a compromise to other performance areas, which is why we recommend you pick performance first and use rolling resistance as a tiebreaker. And remember, don't skimp on tires, don't put off replacing them for too long, and never buy used tires. Again, you can't tell by looking at them what's the best tire, which is why we do so much extensive testing to help you find the safest, best performing tire that meets your individual driving needs.